Welcome back to the channel. The A250 is getting much closer to getting completed. If you saw the last episode, you'll see that I completely and totally stuffed up the body filler on the bumper. I did not put enough hardener in, so we've got to get all that scraped off and redone. But before we do that, these headlights need to be polished. That's not going to take too long, but it'll certainly make a big difference to how they look. So let's dive in and do that, and let's see how far we can get with getting this finished.
Now, I've used AutoSol for over 3 decades. It is an amazing product, but I've always used it on chrome work on old cars. I've got old Holdens, I've had lots of old Holdens, and I still have one. So I was looking for an acrylic polish that would work really well, and then I found that AutoSol actually did one for acrylic finishes. So I bought some and, got it a while ago, as you saw, but now's the time to actually get these done. Giving it a really good wipe over, making sure I wasn't missing any spots at all, and then once that was done and it dries out, you then give it get another clean rag and polish it off. Then over to the other side and do exactly the same thing. There was only a couple of spots that were really starting to milk up as such, but once I gave that a really good go over, up they came just beautiful. A little hard to tell on camera, but they definitely are an improvement to what they were before. Now once that was done, it was over to my bumper mistake. Not enough hardener, and as you can see, it's just clumping up. I mean, the hardener was in there, but just nowhere near enough that was usable that I could then sand it and do it properly. If I tried to use any sanding discs whatsoever on this, they just would have clogged up immediately, and that would have been just complete throwout and a total waste of money. So I started off with this small little screwdriver on these areas until I eventually thought this is going to take ages. So I eventually found a bit of old metal from a shed that I had, and that was it. The edges were reasonably sharp, but not sharp that they're going to start gouging into the plastic, because obviously there was various spots all over the bumper that I had put this on. So I had to be careful, and well, it took a while, let me tell you. It wasn't a 5-minute job at all. But Jasmine wanted to get in and have a go, and well, these spots were just literally, as you can see, lifting off in clumps.
Yep.
So that made it a little easier in that respect, but it still took ages to go over. But eventually, we got there. This is the main spot on the bumper that was the real problem, but eventually after getting it off, we then needed to try out to sand it off to get a little smoother.
Now that that is scraped off, I'm going to try these pads that I got from AliExpress ages ago. This is 100 grit, so it's pretty coarse, just to go over these spots to get the residue basically off, see if they'll clean up a bit better before we go and redo it again. Presents have arrived from AliExpress. There's a bit of confusion as to how something was actually packed, but I know it's supposed to be the under tray, but what I'm hoping also is in here is the wheel arch. And so that is one item. That is the under tray, the big curve. That's fine. We shall get all this off of it, get it out in the sun for the next couple of days with the sun that we have, and it will flatten out. And that is way bigger than I thought. So wheel arch is certainly not far behind, but we'll get on with the bumper, and then lots of things can basically start going back together. After it's painted, of course. Okay, we've now got a slight change to programming from the A250, because guess what is back in the workshop? C200 has returned home. The owner came running and screaming and yelling at me. She didn't really. The owner is my daughter, and the ESL is starting to play up. What's an ESL? It's the electronic steering lock. We're going to take that out. So I've already ordered the parts because it is kind of a semi-common problem with them, but considering that the car is 13 years old, these little motors are like being used X amount of times a day, they're going to wear out. So I bought a pack of 2 simply because it's cheap enough to do so. So we're going to get the electronic steering lock out, we're going to replace the motor, we're going to get it back in, and then get back on to the A250.
So the first thing to do is remove the under tray from where the driver sits. There are 3 torque screws that are going to come out at the very front rib, and then once they're out, that lowers down, and then all you can do is pull it forward. The next thing that's got to come out.
Now, you're just going to disconnect the
Here's the OBD port.
slot, which comes out. That there. That pulls down like that.
Ah, yeah.
And that comes out. Yeah. Okay, now there's 1 screw under here. 1 Phillips head screw holds the latch in place. That comes out. It. Very carefully. I like how everyone else makes it look easy.
Yeah, I know, right?
I make everything look hard. Oh, yes. Ah. Out. So, next.
So there are 4 bolts that have got to be loosened up, 2 of them removed. These 2 here are the closest to the firewall, and then these 2 here are the ones closest to the steering wheel. Now, the ones at the steering wheel will be loosened, but the ones at the firewall end will be taken out completely.
Right tools for the job. I've never even used the universal joints, but it's in such a little tight spot, I'm now going to try it out.
And it was not easy at all. The one closest to the center console at near the driver's steering wheel is the hardest place to get to.
So the idea is to leave the 2 front loose, really loose. Take the 2 that are at the very back out. That allows the steering column to come right down where the ESL is to be able to let you to get out. That gives you the most amount of room. Plus, this happens to be a manual steering column shift. So that was undone, and that's also all the way out to give it maximum amount of movement.
So as you can see, here's a picture of someone who's taken one out previously. It's that steering part of the column that actually is now on the bench. Now this spot right here is the actual ESL itself, and where he has got his impact driver is the 13mm socket. Now that's the 113mm nut that comes out that releases the ESL from that steering column assembly.
Now when you're going to take the ESL out, we've already taken bolts out of the steering column. I've actually even taken the 13mm nut off the back that holds the ESL in place. But I've done something backwards in order. Because at the moment, with the key out, the battery connected means the ESL is locked because it's still currently working. It's intermittently on and off. When you put the key in and nothing happens, that's when you know your ESL is on the way out. So, I need to put the key in so it unlocks it. Then you disconnect the battery to keep it in the unlocked position. So that's what I'm going to do now. Hoping that's still going to be the case now that I've already taken the nut off the back. So, hopefully you hear that. Now, I'm going to put that there. Now we'll disconnect the battery. Finally got it out. There it is right there. Come down here and have a look. That is an ESL. Right. Let me disconnect it. It's got 1 plug on it. That there is an ESL. That is what the 13mm nut is holding, and that's all that holds it in place. Right. Let's take it to the workbench, and we're going to pull this apart. Okay, I got these off that website. So when I ordered it, I specifically, because I'd watched lots of videos, ordered the motors with this specific tool. It is literally just a point with 4 kind of not overly sharp edges. And that is required for this. On each side, there are 2 pins, split pin, cotter pins. And you've got to push this in, which is what we're going to do right now. You're going to push it in and twist once you've kind of got a lock. That's if this is the right size. And try and twist as you pull at the same time. So I think you actually need to knock it in a little bit. I have sharpened, I've used the file just to sharpen 2 edges of this tool to make it sharper because it just didn't feel sharp enough. The pins, as you can see, there's no thread on them. They are just tiny. They're literally just a pin. So the deal is sharpen 2 edges, belt it in, and I do mean belt it in. So it's basically standing in there on its own. Then just spin it where it is to loosen the pin, and then once you know it's spinning, you're ever so slightly trying to pull it out. If you try and just pull it, of course it's just going to pull the tool out like that. And if it does, find the same square that you had, give it really some hard wax, spin it, get it spinning freely, and then ever so slightly put the pressure on it outwards to see if you can get it to come out. Will this one do it? Nearly. Someone in another video also did use a slightly larger drill just to take the edge off because they thought the edge, the top was slightly curved over the pins, which may be the case. It could be worth doing. Let's try this one more. Same one. Of course, when you bang it, it's putting it back in. But no. We had success with one. Everyone in all the videos I've watched said you got to have perseverance and patience. Just do it bit by bit. Anyway, we'll get these 3 out and then we'll get on with the rest of it. 3 of the pins are out. I've literally just used a 4mm drill bit to just open the top up the tiniest amount, and that has worked. Banging it in, spinning it in its place to make sure it's spinning freely, and then it came out reasonably easy. So let's just see if this last one does the same. As you can see, it's not much at all. Let's see if this will in fact come out. You can see they're pretty hefty. I'm going to spin it in its own spot. No. I bet you this is the one. We used a tiny screw before, it was an idea, and when I put that in and tried to put it in only a tiny bit, then try to pull it, it pulled part of the inside of that pin out, so it's made it a much thinner wall, and now that's probably the one that's not going to come out. I'll try this once more. Doesn't. No. That means we're going to drill this one out. I'll find something else. It happens to be the outside anyway, not that it matters because I can use the 2 inside ones.
Yep.
And I can simply put a screw in that. I'm pretty sure where it bolts in, you can see that it's got a ridge around it, so it must sit into a slot, hence it needs to be flush. But the 2 outside ones are not held by anything, so they could definitely just simply have a screw in it. So let's do that. We have got all 4 pins out. Now, keeping this way, the circuit board is on top, and we don't want all the motor and everything to fall out, and this cog here as well. So very carefully take this off, which is going to bring this out with it, because the circuit board is attached to the electronics, obviously. And there is also a spring in there, and a pin. Keep those there. This board, oh wow. Yep. You can see the back of the board is all getting a little bit dark because of the motor. This literally just pushes on 2. Oh no, there's one screw right there. It's a Torx. We're going to take that off first. You need a T10 Torx bit to take this out. There's only one screw. And then this very carefully lifts off. Be careful not to move all of that. Even this black plastic just moves. You just be very careful. Put it down. There's the electronics. There's the motor standing sideways, and it literally just pulls off. So this is just going to get a very quick clean, and then we'll put the new one in. This has all been cleaned. It literally just pushes on. Like so. Now we're going to use the grease that it came with, which is brilliant. Put grease on the cog, put grease on the plastic cog. Very carefully put it all back together, put the pins in, and get it back into the car.
So buying this actually came with the tool, the 2 motors, and this grease. Now the most important thing when you've got moving parts, especially something that you don't have easy access to, is to make sure they are lubricated really well. So all the moving parts, I made sure I had grease and plenty on there. Enough that I could obviously use it for later for the second one when needed. Now after getting this all back together like this, then realized that the T10 screw was not on the circuit board. So obviously we had to take that back off, put the spring back where it's supposed to be, put the screw in, and then put it back together. Of course that's back together. The pins really easily went in, and then they've just going to be tapped down to as far as they go. Put it all back together. As simple as that.
Everything is back together. We're literally just going to do the exact reverse. Put it back in, put all the bolts back in for the steering column. And try it out. Plug it in down here. It is back in place, went in pretty easily. Just going to tighten up the 13mm nut. And then we can get the tray, in fact no, we'll connect the battery and then test it after I can get the steering bolts back in as well before we put in the tray.
Now because we've actually only physically got 2 bolts to put in, it's pretty easily because they line up. So once I've got all those in place, it's then just a matter of tightening them up. Now these 2 at the steering end, wow.
Oh man.
Patience is required.
2 bolts are done up, one at the back, one at the front. Steering wheel column is not going to move. I've only done the 2. We're going to put the battery back on, connect it, and just test it, make sure it works, and then I'll do the other 2 bolts. That way if I do have to get back out, I've only got 2 to undo. Tightly, not tightly. Anyway, let's do that. Whoa, it's come to life. Oh, what? That wasn't on the call, was it?
I have no clue.
So when we take the key out, we should in theory hear it lock. Yes! It is locked. Ah ha ha! It is unlocked. Great success!
Now, no matter what videos I watch of whoever's putting things together or pulling things apart, they always make things look easy. Well, maybe I'm just clumsy, but
then put it in.
I mean, I got it in. Just doing the reverse of what I did, but
In. Put the screw back in.
I just seem to make it look a little harder than it really is.
That's back in. OBD port. Pull the locking carriage back. Put this in. Pretty sure it'll only go in one way. Maybe not. No, it goes in and that locks that back in place. Little guide pin at the back here. It goes down into the carpet. That goes in there. Really? Really?
So eventually, after getting the screw to sit on the end of the screwdriver, the Torx bit, we replaced the 3 screws, and that was that job done.
Everything is back together in the C200. Amber has put the key in and out a couple of times and noticed straight away that it sounds quieter and is much faster. Because it's a brand new motor, it is a lot quieter. I just happened to be driving a Mercedes Sprinter last night and I noticed straight away it also has an ESL. You could hear it. It was a lot quieter, a lot quicker. So that tells me that it's definitely an improvement. So this is going to go out. A250 is going to come back in. I'm going to get on with the bumper.
So after taking the C200 out, bringing the A250 back in, it was time to get back onto the bumper. Now I've got to redo the body filler for this, so I'm going to make sure that it can adheres to it really well. So giving another scuff over, then making sure it is clean, giving it all a wipe over, using the ammonia, and then it was a matter of, right, I got to make sure I put in enough hardener in this body filler to make sure it works, because I certainly don't want to do that again. So after getting some body filler out, mixing it up, because if you leave it sitting for a while, it does need to be mixed, and then putting in some hardener. Now, here I am questioning myself, do I have enough in here? Now I'm watched quite a few videos to try and make sure I do this as well as I can, spreading it out, and then I'm still unsure with myself, so I've put some more in. There's probably a reason that you can buy the hardener separately from the hardware stores, because obviously a lot more people use more of it than they probably need, but it's required. So starting here where the main damage was again, it was a matter of just doing exactly what I've done before, going over the entire bumper, looking for the spots where it needs to be filled, where there's some scuffs, where there's some dents. There was no actual cracks, which is really good, but going over, trying to make sure that I've got every single spot covered. Now, did I mix enough? Well, even the instructions say you can always mix more, but I did. Anyway, now that's to the side to dry off. Now, I want to get onto this CV joint boot. So the first thing I'm going to do is get this cap off where the bolt is that holds the drive shaft to the whole assembly. Now, screwdriver didn't work, but I've ended up using a cold chisel to do the majority of it. Now, this just did not want to move, and I'm starting to think, oh, is this going to be really hard? So I got out part of my toolkit that I've never used before, the big guns, and then it was just spinning really freely. Now, how am I going to do that? Right, the wheel needs to go on. Take out the center cap, put the wheel on. I'm only going to put in 3 wheel nuts just to hold it. Get it back on the ground, then get the socket back on there, and see how tight this thing is. And it really wasn't that bad. It was tight, but not that tight that it was insane. Jack it back up, put the jack stand back under. Obviously, take off the wheel. And the main thing here is I want to test if this thing is tapered. Is it easy to... There, you can see it. You can see the actual CV shaft in the background moving. It's been an entire week since I've been in the workshop. Life is just busy. There is things going on. But the new TPMS sensors have arrived literally today. And with that also arrived this. I thought I might as well upgrade the key ring and just put something on there to make it stand out and look a little better. I got the red one because it's an AMG sports pack, because it's got red striping. There's red bits on it, like on here and on the bumper and so forth. Now, as for this tape that was on the bumper, had a little bit of a brainwave. These are the bottom trims that were on the bottom of the bumper. Every bumper that's out there in this model just has the same thing, and I thought, why not make it a little bit different and stand out? So I thought, why shouldn't these be red? These are going to get lightly sanded, primed, and then painted red. That's going to happen. Now, as for that red tape that we took off the bumper that you saw in the previous episode, that is just rubbish. It's probably not going to happen in this video, but what's the best? Help me out with comments. Please help me out with some comments. If you're a painter, let me know what's the best way to go. Do I paint the bumper first, mask off and leave a gap where I want the red to go, put the red in, take the tape off, and then clear coat it, because clear coat over the 2 bits of paint, just a clear coat finish over a whole painted red and grey is going to be better than putting tape on. Or do I paint the red first, tape that off, covering the strip that I want to keep, and then paint the grey on top, and then remove the tape, exposing the red, and then clear coat it? Which way do you do it? Which way is the better way, if there's a better way? Please leave a comment, and while you're commenting, subscribe if you're not. Right, so CV boot has got to be done still. We've got the hub off, and I got the bolt off, and it moves. But before we do that, I want to paint the little strips red, get those done. It's a quick and easy job to get out the way. Then we'll look at getting the CV boot done, and we'll at least get the bumper sanded ready. So I'm pretty sure in the next episode we could be painting it all, clear coating it, putting the bumper and everything back together, the new under tray, the new front under tray, rivets and all, and the car can be going back together. The wheel rims are getting powder coated next week. I'm going to get them back. I'm not going to put on the original tyres. We're going to put something different on there and then get them onto the car. And then, other than getting a replacement seal for the hatch, getting the vinyl seat repaired, that will be the car done. Let's go. So using some 800 grit pads, I'm giving these a sand as best as I can, because they are a pretty tight little spot to get into. Cleaning them, of course, to make sure that there's no dust and whatever else in there to interfere. Taking them outside and using the primer to go over them first to help the paint stick far better to the plastic. Now, after I'd done it, there seems to be a tiny little bit of like cracking in the paint, not in the plastic at all, but in the actual paint. And now that's happened previously when I was doing the C200, and I'm learning, of course. So thought, right, just give them a light sand, give them another going over. It certainly helped, but it certainly shouldn't have done it. But why? I've given these a couple of coats of the undercoat. I suspect that the window cleaner, which is just ammonia that I'm using, is, I don't know, it's what is affecting, because I've had it when I did the C200. If you've seen those videos of when I was prepping before undercoating and painting, I was having a couple of reactions on the tires, so it was the tire rims. And I think that could be the issue. So I might need to invest in some actual proper panel wipe, find out what the actual difference is. But after giving them a bit of a sand, recoating them, they've come up a lot better. This one looks really good. This one, I've gone a few times just to help fill in some of the spots that just created like cracks. But anyway, let's get the red on them. So outside, this is brake caliper paint that Lockie has bought previously and sat there. So literally outside, and give them a going over. And they do look good. That is going to look absolutely sensational. So of course, now the one's done, it's simply grab the other one and do that as well, making sure that I've covered all of it. Now, while they dry, it's now time to actually get on to sanding this body filler on the bumper to try and get it all matched up. So this is a big job. Now, especially with this bumper, there are lots of curves all over the place. Now, Bowen wanted to give it a go as well, so of course, why would I stop him from having a go?
Got it? 800?
Using the 800 pads, I just wanted to test the spot after sanding it with the 320 to see how smooth it was going to come out. Now you can see there are different colours of grey, shades of grey over it. I think I may have gone a little too far. And I've learnt since then, after watching some videos, then the important thing when you're going to paint plastic is it's best to probably use an adhesion promoter, plastic adhesion promoter. Now I think that may be the problem that I had when I just did those 2 strips that I painted red. That's why the grey primer probably wasn't sticking so well. So I've got to go and get some of that and try that out, because I certainly don't want that happening all over the bumper, because if that does, I'm going to have to sand it and redo it. Now this takes quite a lot of time. Jasmine wanted to get in and have a go as well here over the blade putty to smooth it off. Now there was plenty of hardener in, because it was definitely a hard, that's for sure. So going over and just taking the time to get it down, because I don't want to go too far and then have to redo it. Now this end here is the main spot. So, especially when there's curves, I've got to be really, really careful and not actually sand on the sharpened edges. When I say sharp, I mean the 2 points where the 2 curves meet. So doing the flat spots or the curved spots very carefully, and then trying to reshape what's been taken out in the spots that have been taken out. Now Callum's become a pro at sanding. If you saw the C200 videos, you'll know he's done this before. Now that most of the sanding is done on the bumper, there's still a few spots that I've got to put some blade putty on, just to lift up a couple of spots that have just still been slightly indented. Gonna do that in a little bit, but I want to get the CV boot on this front driver's side fixed. Now I've never done this before. Watched some videos, got an idea. It doesn't look overly hard, but there's a bit of work involved. So let's dive in. So first of all, take out this center bolt, which I've already loosened as you'd seen. And now there's these 2 bolts here which hold the brake caliper assembly on. One at the top, one at the bottom. Now I'm using an E18 Torx socket because that's the shape of the bolt head. Now eventually I got the top one loose, and the bottom one, well, that just kept slipping roundwards on the head. I mean, the top was doing the same as well. I really had to pull it towards me to try and keep it on. And it just shouldn't be that hard. It's like the right socket, but anyway, it was just a complete and total struggle. And I thought, this is just ridiculous. The bottom one just kept rounding over it, and I just couldn't understand. So eventually I had to try something else. You can see the frustration starting to set in, right? Anyone knows of any good quality gloves that do not break, please leave a comment, let me know. This is just frustrating. Yeah, please do leave a comment. Please like, please subscribe. This bottom bolt just would not loosen up. So I thought, right, go and try a normal socket. Just found the right one, and let's see how that goes. 9/16 socket. Let's see if that works, because it's the fits in nicely. Let's try that. That doesn't bounce around like the E-Torx. Go figure. It's an E-Torx head bolt. Wow. I thought they might have been thread locked on, but they're not. Brake. Caliper. Hold on. Let's hang this up here. Up, out of the way, not getting wrecked. Now that that's out the way, I'm using a T30 Torx bit to take out the one screw that holds on the brake disc. Turning the actual steering outwards so we can get to this bolt here, which is a 21mm nut. Now to remove this nut, this whole ball joint from the hub here, we need a special tool, this one right here. Now I could have gotten this on its own for roughly just under $30 locally, or I could have gotten the entire set for $50. Crazily, on AliExpress, that's like $70. I think even plus a tiny bit of postage. I got that for $50 brand new from Marketplace, so
sometimes local does work, and yet it's exactly the same kit on AliExpress. So someone's just imported a stack, got them cheap, and they're selling them pretty cheap. So works for me.
Oh yes! Now I'm going to use this tool, which is supposed to be the right one, to get this out. This is a tapered joint, but I could not get it to get in, so I took off the brake disc cover, which just had 3 Torx screws on it to give me another angle to come in, and I still couldn't get it on. There's not enough room on the underneath. Now this is the tie rod end joining this steering knuckle here, and then I went through the little new toolkit I've got here and found this one just went on absolutely perfectly, and then later found out by researching that that's actually the correct tool that I'm supposed to use. Anyway, what's this? Bazinga.
Yeah!
A lot of people leave the nut on top, that it then doesn't go flying out.
Right tools for the job make a difference.
So now that it is off, I'm going to use some degreaser to try and get some of this CV boot grease off that is all over the place, because it is just an absolute mess. Now under here, this is the lower control arm, and this is the nut that we now need to take off. It is a 21mm as well, and I'm thinking it's going to be super tight, but no. I mean, it was tight, but it was easy enough that I could get it off. So after undoing that, I now need to use the first tool that I was trying to use to try and get that off. Now it is a pretty tight space in here, but before we do that, we've got the sway bar link that we need to undo. This is a 19mm nut with a little 8mm end on it, and I wondered why that was until I realized it loosened the 19mm nut, but then the entire thing just kept spinning around, so hence you need to put the 8mm spanner on there and then actually take the nut off. Literally pull that out of the way, and that is that part done. Now I thought I had videoed me trying to use that first tool that I had on that tie rod end, but I didn't have the video camera rolling. I couldn't get it under at all, so then I tried different things to try and get it off. Now it is in super tight. Again, it is just a tapered joint, but it is in really tight. Trying to be very careful not to ruin the actual thread, of course, but I could not get it to budge.
Well, I've just spent about 2 hours trying to get the lower control arm off, and as you can see, the sun is now starting to go down, and it was well and truly bright in the background before. I just cannot get it off. It just will not budge. The tools that I've got do not fit in there. It needs to be very, very large. Have a really large, wide jaw to be able to slide underneath and get on. And the one that I've got just is nowhere near big enough. So I don't know what to do. It is the next day. I have been down to Bunnings, which is a bit like a Home Depot if you happen to be watching from the USA, but I went and bought this separately, which is pretty much exactly the same as the one in my kit, but I'm not going to go and grind that up. So I've bought this. I'm going to try and make this, well, just shave it down a bit, open the jaw up and see if I can get it in, because this is the only way to get that lower control arm off. And I've got to get it off. It's the one thing now holding, finishing the whole job. So wish me luck.
Now, I thought of every other way to try and get this off, and I looked for this same tool with a larger jaw. The jaw is the bit that I'm working on right now, and I could not find one. So this was the only solution, and I couldn't wait. I needed to get this done. So, like I said, I went and bought one, and then I've just started now to work on making this wider and a bit flatter to get in. So first of all, using the bench grinder, and now with the actual disc grinder, to try and open this jaw. This spot that I'm working in, big curve, is called the jaw. Now using my die grinder, I'm just taking out the parts that I've just opened up with the grinder, the disc grinder, just to make that wider. Now here's the actual mouth of the jaw, and I'm now making this wider. I literally need to make it like about 5 to 6 mil wider. So there's still plenty of meat on this cast, but I need it wider. Patience has paid off after grinding and die grinding. I've got it in. It is in place. It's in really well. It's got a good depth over the thread. So we are in good shape to attempt this, to see if this will now come apart. Let's see what happens. Yes, it worked! Oh man, what a relief! Woof! You want to put the hubcap on, Bubby? Yeah, it doesn't fit yet. Alright, now, it's already springing back up because there's that much spring in the control arm. So I'm going to see if I can get that down and pull this forward. Unfortunately, we didn't have the camera rolling when I just pushed the control arm down, pulled this forward, and it's now all separated. So that was the goal. Now it's take off the clamp to the boot, cut that off, and check that it's the right size, because I'm a bit concerned. So I've seen plenty of videos on this because I watched on how to do it. Lots of them have just used a die grinder to take off these stainless steel clamps, one at the back, one at the front. And then a whole world of surprises was about to come and hit me in the face. You literally just cut off the boot because it's being thrown out. But something kept jamming or hitting on the inside of the boot. Now let me just tell you.
What's that?
Nothing is supposed to be on the inside of the CV boot. Just grease. That's all its job is to contain grease.
That's the back half. Greasy. Bobby, don't touch this. Oh, let's put it there. What is this? That is not... What is that? What is that? That's that bit. And... It's not the same size, is it? What is all of this? I have no idea on earth what that is. It's certainly like... I have no idea what that is, but it's not... This part here I'm about to cut is... It's like a rubber rib, as if it's part of it, like was part of it, because it's split, so... It's all rubber. It's all rubber. So, anyway, I'm going to cut all this off, because I know it's not supposed to be in there. And then we'll get it cleaned up, now that I've gotten grease everywhere. I put my detective hat on. This skinny bit that I'm pulling out here is very kind of fibrous, if you can see those bits sticking up. Remember when we took this tyre off, the inside of it was completely gone. That is, because there's a bit hanging off it, and it looks exactly like this. Part of that tyre has come off, it's gotten caught around the CV shaft, and it's tightened it up. And that is what's broken it. Because that bit that I cut off, this bit here, is a rib of the CV joint, the CV boot. This has gotten wrapped around it and is what has actually cut it. Just look how long it is. Man. Still going. Oh wow. So that is the tyre stripping off in a strip. That's literally what that is. And this, oh bummy, oh sorry, we don't need the light. Oh, there's more tyre. Oh, that is part of the tyre. You've got to be joking me. That is one rib of the boot. This, that is part of the tyre. That is literally the tread of the tyre. Oh man. That is it. There's no rattles or anything in there, so the bearings are still all good. Right, now we've got to clean all that grease off the CV drive shaft and off of me. Then we can, well, doesn't look like the boot is the right one. So I'm going to clean the two ends off the boot rubber, see if there's a marking of the diameter, because they're normally marked on the outsides. I might leave that because this actually has to be, taken off to be able to slide the boot on, and then this put back on. So yeah, it's getting cleaned up and check if it's going to fit. Just to reiterate, this is the tyre, this is the rim that was originally on the driver's side, and here's a bit here, look, you can see that right there. That's hanging off. That's exactly what we found on the inside of the hub, and there's a whole chunk missing. That has come off, has gone around the rib of that CV boot, has caught on, and has just literally then pulled it off like that and cut that boot and made a complete and total mess. So, I mean, that's getting changed anyway, but I'm just astounded. After being online and looking at the part number that this was and this part number, as you can see on the screen, both of those part numbers actually correspond to each other, hence this actually supposedly is the right boot. Now, even though it fitted inside the other one, obviously that had been stretched. So there is a bit of stretchiness in this. So we're going to see if this actually will go on. So that's what we're going to do now.
Now to get it on, obviously we're going to get the actual CV joint itself off. Now there is limited room to swing a hammer in here. So while I was trying it, now I don't have a brass drift punch, which is ideally what you should use. And they said if you use a bit of hardwood, that would still work. Now ideally it'd be better to have the actual CV joint straightened compared to the angle that I'm on, but I need to have it on the angle so that I can only hit the spot that needs to be touched, because I don't want to touch the outer part of the CV joint or the actual ball bearings either. Now I have seen a few guys do this, so this was what I ended up having to do, was hit it directly with the hammer. And
that worked.
it worked.
Is it okay?
Worked. The idea is that you have to hit this star bit here, so when it's on a big angle it sticks out. So happy days. Now I'm just going to find the little retaining clip. Now this is off, we can get it in, this can get cleaned up. We can go from there. We'll give the shaft a good clean too, and then get it back together.
Now the retaining clip was still on the shaft, so that was all good. Now I have been told that you can reuse it. Ideally it's best to replace it, but it can be reused, no problem. Now here it is, all cleaned up, way better. Now we wanted to also test fit that the CV boot did actually fit, and as you can see, it did. The whole point is that it does need to stretch over so it has a tight fit before you even put the clamps on. So now that we know that's done, the first thing we've got to do is put the actual CV boot onto the shaft, pushing it up, right up, out of the way. Now it probably would have been easy to put a little bit of oil or grease on there just to help it slide, but I just didn't want to do that. So pushed it up, now it's on, up, out of the way. We can now look at getting the CV joint on. Now, before we do that, I made sure it was clean, and then I went and bought a whole full tube of CV boot grease. And now the idea is to pack that grease into the bearings, get it fully packed. Now I'm not putting the whole lot on yet. It's literally the opposite now what we've already done, and that is line it up with the shaft, getting all the spines in place, and then one tap and that was it. It was back on, and that was not coming off. Now with the rest of the grease, putting it all the way around the CV joint and packing it in, because all of that's got to go in. You don't put a small amount, you use the entire tube. That is a 100 gram tube, so it doesn't seem like a lot, but that is got to last the lifetime of that joint, or as long as the CV boot itself, again, doesn't split. So bit by bit, putting it in, packing it in, and then once that was done, slide the CV boot down to the actual CV joint, and now the fun part of trying to get it on while you've got grease in all over the place, making it hard to even grip and pull down. So Jasmine had to put the camera down, put it on the tripod, and then we got it on. 4 hands, better than 2. Now these are adjustable clamps, so you put on as tight as you can by hand, and then you use the correct tool, the crimping tool, which I already had, to actually crimp it tight. These are a one-off use clamp, hence that's why the first one's got cut off. Now once that one was on,
And that clamped on.
it was a matter of putting the larger one on, doing exactly the same thing, putting it on by hand, making sure that I could get it as tight as possible, and then once that was done, just using the clamp to tighten it up.
CV boot is back together. I've never done one before. You know, thank the Lord that we have online videos that allows us to learn, and you go, you know what, it's not that hard. So that is on, it's sealed, yay, and it fits. Right, so while this is here, I'm going to give it just all a quick clean. What I can reach here, and obviously the back of this caliper here, give it a clean, and then we'll get all of this back together.
So now that it is all exposed, using my little detailing brush that I had sitting there from when we were first cleaning it, I'm using the degrees all over it to try and get as much crap off of this thing. Now look at that. Way better. It's not completely spotless, but it's a far cry better than what it was. Now this is the brake disc cover that was again full of crap and grease and stuff. So more degreaser, give it a clean to expose that it's actually an AMG part. Now once that was cleaned, it was then over to get all of this back together, moving the brake caliper assembly out of the way. First thing I'm going to do is get the CV drive shaft into the knuckle assembly, and now we've got to get that spring-loaded control arm back onto the bottom. Now I could not do it by hand, I tried, so I went and grabbed that same pry bar, which just happens to have a hole in the control arm, which just allowed me to put it in and then bend it down until I could just wiggle it around and line up that thread shaft, tape it, as you can see, into the bottom of the knuckle. And then, done.
Yeah.
On with the 21mm nut. Now again, this was also spinning around a little bit, so I had to use, it was a T40 Allen key bit. Now once I started to tighten up, I could just use the 21 on its own to tighten it up fully. Now just putting the bolt in place, because obviously I don't want to lose it, but I'm not going to tighten this up until later when the wheel does eventually go back on. Now bringing the steering back in place so that I could pretty much move the steering assembly just a little bit to slide that back into place, knocking it into the correct place, and then back on with that 21mm nut. Making sure it is tight. Now again, I think this is an extra little AMG part that gets added. It was just greased up a bit, so I thought, just clean it. Might as well.
Clean. I mean, no one's going to really see it. When they inspect it, they'll see it as being clean, but it's just better to be clean. So,
it is literally only 3 cable ties that actually hold it in place, and I'm trying to work out its actual job, but looking at it, it just helps scoop the air in towards the brake area to help them keep cool. It literally just cable ties on the bottom, as you can see.
oh yeah, it pulls the plastic up to that. Nice.
And once that was done, cut off the excess, and that was that part done. Now, the brake disc cover plates. 3 Torx screws, and that picnic done. Brake disc itself back on with the T30 bit screw, and that's it. Now, these bolts off the brake caliper, I put them back on so I knew where they were. Put them in place, do them up by hand, and this time, just go straight to the 9/16 socket and do them up. Being careful not to break the fender. Back in with the sway bar link. 19mm nut on here, and again using the 8mm on the outside to tighten it up. Once it's done, tighten the 19mm to finish that off. And the last thing is just this little grey assembly which just holds some cables in place.
That is it. It is all back together, looking really good. I actually had some fun doing it. Really glad it came together as well as it did. Glad that the boot that I ordered was actually the correct one in the end. So if you've ever got a part number and you've got another item and it's not the same, always do a search to see if they are compatible part numbers, because they do change them over time. Looks way better too. The caliper's nice and clean. Everything's back together. Part of that whole suspension assembly too is been cleaned up, so it looks way better. Please like, please share, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up. See you on the next one.